Engines don't just die, they're murdered. And the shocking truth is, the killer is almost always one of a handful of cheap, ignored parts that probably costs less than a decent dinner. 90% of catastrophic engine failures can be traced back to a single component that costs less than $20. One of these ticking time bombs might be under your hood right now, just waiting for the worst possible moment to strike. So today, we're going undercover to expose the 7 biggest culprits before they kill your engine. 1. The timing system's silent assassin. Everybody worries about the timing belt. It's the big one, the part that keeps your pistons and valves from smashing into each other in a glorious, expensive metal confetti party. But the real villain, the quiet killer in the shadows, isn't the belt itself. It's the tensioner and the idler pulleys. Think about it. A belt is only as strong as the components guiding it. The tensioner's job is to keep that belt perfectly tight, and the pulleys keep it running true. When one of them fails, if a bearing seizes, starts to wobble, or the spring loses its tension, your engine can jump time in a split second. If you have an interference engine, which most modern cars do, that's it. Game over. You're looking at a bill for bent valves, damaged pistons, and potentially a completely new engine. I've seen engines destroyed because a single pulley bearing, a $10 part, gave up. Some people try to save a few bucks by just replacing the belt, but that's like putting a new chain on a rusty sprocket. It's a huge mistake. When you're doing a timing belt job, you have to replace everything as a kit: the belt, the tensioner, the pulleys, and the water pump if it's driven by the belt. Skimping here isn't saving money, it's gambling with your entire engine.
2. The cooling system's double agents. Your engine lives and dies by its ability to stay cool, and 2 of the most treacherous parts in that system are the thermostat and the radiator cap. A radiator cap looks simple, right? Wrong. It does more than just plug a hole. It's a pressurized valve, and that pressure is critical because it raises the boiling point of your coolant. No pressure means your coolant boils at a lower temperature, turning to steam and creating air pockets. Your engine overheats, and you might not even see a leak on the ground. You just notice the coolant level mysteriously dropping over time. I knew a guy who replaced his water pump, his thermostat, even his radiator, chasing an overheating issue on long drives. The problem? A faulty $6 radiator cap that couldn't hold pressure. Then you have the thermostat. This little metal valve is supposed to open and close to let coolant flow. But if it gets stuck in the closed position, it's like a deadly blood clot. Coolant stops flowing to the radiator, and your engine will cook itself in minutes. That cheap $15 part can warp a cylinder head and leave you with a repair bill in the thousands. The temperature gauge will spike, you'll lose heat from your vents, and by the time you realize what's happening, the damage is already done. When you change your coolant, which should be every few years, just change the thermostat and the cap. It's cheap insurance.
3. The engine's clogged arteries, the PCV valve. Deep in the engine bay, there's a tiny, forgotten valve called the positive crankcase ventilation valve, or PCV valve. Most drivers don't even know it exists, but it's one of the most common secret engine killers. Its job is to take the nasty, unburnt gases that sneak past your piston rings, we call this blow-by, and send them back into the intake manifold to be burned off. This keeps corrosive gunk from building up in your oil and prevents pressure from building up in the crankcase. But when this valve, which cost about $8, gets clogged with sludge, it's a disaster. That pressure has to go somewhere. It starts pushing oil out of every seal and gasket it can find. Your engine starts leaking from places you didn't know could leak. Worse, that pressure can force oil vapor into your intake, choking your engine with carbon and sludge, killing performance and fuel economy. You might notice a rough idle, smoke from the exhaust, or just that the engine feels sluggish. Mechanics often find engines caked in black sludge, all because a PCV valve that takes 5 minutes to replace was ignored for years.
4. The spark of disaster, the ignition coil. When your engine starts to shake, hesitate, or misfire, what do? A lot of people blame bad gas and just keep driving. This is a massive mistake. Often, the culprit is a failing ignition coil. The coil's job is to take the 12 volts from your battery and multiply it into the thousands of volts needed to create a spark at the spark plug. No spark, no combustion. In modern engines where each cylinder has its own coil, one failure means one cylinder is just along for the ride. The engine shakes violently, and worse, it's dumping raw, unburnt fuel directly into your exhaust system. This is where a simple problem gets incredibly expensive. That raw fuel will superheat and melt the inside of your catalytic converter, turning a $23 coil replacement into a $700 or more catalytic converter job. I've seen it happen countless times. A customer ignores the check engine light and the rough idle for weeks, and by the time they come in, they've cooked their exhaust system. Don't be that person. A misfire is your engine screaming for help.
5. When the engine's brain goes blind. Your engine control unit, the ECU, is the brain of the operation, but it's completely useless without good information from its sensors. Two of the most critical are the crankshaft position sensor and the oil pressure sensor. The crankshaft position sensor is a vital component. Without it, the engine has no idea when to fire the spark plugs or inject fuel. If it fails, your engine shuts off instantly. It could happen at a stoplight or while you're doing 60 miles an hour on the highway. The tricky part is they often fail intermittently. The engine might stall when it gets hot, then work perfectly fine once it cools down, making it a nightmare to diagnose. People will needlessly replace batteries, alternators, and fuel pumps chasing a ghost when the real problem is a $20 sensor. Then there's the oil pressure sensor. This sensor can lie to you in two deadly ways. It can fail and cause your oil light to flicker, making you panic and think your engine is about to seize when it's perfectly fine. Or, even worse, it can fail to warn you when you actually have lost oil pressure. You'll be driving along thinking everything is great because there's no warning light, while your engine is actually starving for oil. By the time you hear that awful grinding, clattering sound, it's too late. Your engine's internal parts have been destroyed. Never, ever ignore an oil pressure warning or a suspicious noise.
6. The single belt that runs everything. Open your hood and you'll see a long snake-like belt winding its way around a bunch of pulleys. That's the serpentine belt, and it's the lifeblood of your engine's accessories. It powers your alternator, your power steering, your air conditioning, and most importantly, your water pump. This belt is incredibly durable, but it doesn't last forever. People ignore the warning signs, the cracks, the glazed look, the frayed edges, or that high-pitched squeal on a cold morning. And then, one day, it snaps. When it does, everything stops at once. You instantly lose power steering, making the car incredibly difficult to steer. The alternator stops charging, so your battery will die soon after. But the most immediate danger is the water pump. Without that belt, the pump doesn't turn, coolant doesn't circulate, and your engine will overheat in a matter of minutes. A $26 belt that takes 15 minutes to change can leave you stranded and facing a massive bill for an overheated engine if you don't pull over immediately.
7. The 2-minute fix people ignore for years. Finally, let's talk about the single easiest, cheapest, and most frequently neglected part on this list, the engine air filter. Your engine is basically a giant air pump. It needs to breathe clean air to work properly, and the air filter is its lung. When that filter gets clogged with dust, leaves, and bugs, it's like forcing your engine to run a marathon with a dirty rag stuffed in its mouth. It can't get enough air. Less air means the engine runs rich, wasting fuel and creating carbon deposits that foul up your spark plugs and clog your sensors. You'll notice your gas mileage gets worse. The car feels sluggish when you hit the throttle, and it just doesn't have the power it used to. There's no check engine light, just a slow, gradual decline. I've seen filters that haven't been changed in 60,000 miles. They're practically solid blocks of dirt. A new filter costs less than $20, and on most cars, you can change it yourself in under 2 minutes with no tools at all. Check it every 15,000 miles or more often if you live in a dusty area. It's the simplest thing you can do to keep your engine happy. And that brings me to one final crucial piece of advice. Don't cheap out on parts. You can do all the right maintenance, but if you install a poor quality, no-name part, you're just starting the countdown to another failure.
Always try to use original equipment manufacturer parts or parts from reputable brands like Bosch, Denso, Aisin, or Motorcraft. Your car is an investment, and the small amount you save on a cheap part is never worth the risk of destroying your engine. Thanks for tuning in. We've come to the end of another video. I hope this helps you keep your car on the road and out of the shop. Be sure to check out the other videos on your screen, and we'll see you in the next one.